Hi guys, and welcome back to another HitFilm tutorial. This week we are joined by the legend that is Simon Jones. He's not been on the channel for a while, but we've invited him back for an awesome tutorial on fiery text. So take it away, Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon Jones. Some of you might remember me from...
Hi, I'm Simon. Today we're talking about how this video is all about HitFilm.
It is really good to be back. Here we have two primary effects working together, the 2D fire effect with the 3D particle simulator. At its core, this effect is simply about some text and some fire, and can be accomplished incredibly easily. You can't make flamey text without some text, so let's create a new composite shot. I'll go for a standard 1080p comp, and then I'll grab the text tool and draw out a box. Let's type out HitFilm. I'm going to use Courier New as the font because it has a satisfyingly old and physical look which you can imagine being set on fire. That makes sense in my head somehow. I'll go in and adjust the settings, making the text pretty big, maybe reduce the character spacing. You can of course go for any font and any letters that you want. Onto this text layer I will drag some effects, starting off with the fire effect. If I now drag the playhead along a bit, you'll see that we get some fire and it looks kind of okay. But I want it to look like this text is so hot that it's on the verge of melting into the ground. To do this, let's customize that fire effect. First up, I'll change the blend mode. Currently it's set to screen, which means the fire is blended on top of the text. I'm going to switch this to none, which means it won't blend at all. In other words, the fire effect entirely replaces the text. It's still using the text as the flame source, but the letters are no longer visible. This makes it pretty hard to read though, so here's what we're going to do. Go into the fire's simulation properties and reduce the movement all the way down, almost to nothing, maybe 0.02. This draws the flame back towards the source. Source fill we'll put all the way up to 1, so that the fire is being generated across the entire text rather than being all patchy. Source variation controls how much the fire wibbles about, wibble being the technical term. If you put it really low, you get a smooth, calm undulation, like a small candle flame. Ramp it all the way up and you get a lot of flickering intensity as if it's much hotter. I'll go somewhere in the middle, like 6. Iterations I tend to put all the way up, but if this has too big a performance hit on your machine, feel free to keep it a bit lower. Essentially, the more iterations you have, the more realistic and detailed the simulation. We now have clearly recognizable letters which look like they're rippling with intense heat. To create the flame, we'll add another fire effect. This builds on top of the previous one, and combined together, it's looking pretty great already. In this new fire effects simulation properties, I'll put iterations up to 900 again, but otherwise I'm going to leave it at the defaults. You might want to fiddle around with these to get a particular look. If you want a calm, candlelit flame, go for low source variation and movement properties. If you want something bigger and more dramatic, ramp them both up. I'm going to reset both of these back to the defaults. Right, now for HitFilm's secret weapon, which is the Light Sword Ultra Glow effect. This is designed primarily for creating cool light swords in your Star Wars fan films, but is also perfect for making fire look amazing. After finding it in the effects panel and adding it to the text layer, I'll go into the presets and change it to Red Distortion. Now that I've changed that preset, I'm pretty happy with the look. The glow and distortion makes the fire feel much more like real fire captured through a camera lens, rather than a perfectly exposed CG simulation. That glow bleed you can see at the top of the screen will be gone in just a moment, so don't worry about that. So this is nice, but it could do with some embellishment. And for this, I'm going to create a new black plane and put it below the text layer. I'm going to then copy the second larger fire effect from the text layer and the Light Sword Ultra Glow and then paste them both onto the new plane. This is immediately pretty crazy with this full screen flamey madness, and I think my screen might be about to melt, so let's quickly use a mask to restrict where the fire can originate. Select the ellipse shape, then select the plane layer, and in the viewer draw a long, slender shape below the text, kind of like an underline. This will constrict the flames to just that drawn area. Don't forget to switch the text layer's overall blend mode to screen, so that it combines with the plane layer properly and doesn't obscure it. I'm going to add a couple more masks. The first I'll put somewhere over on the left side, a smaller oval sitting over the H. This creates a hotspot where the flames can go higher and be more excited. I'll do a similar thing over here on the right. You can add as many of these shapes as you want, of course, reintroducing each time some of that flame. Remember how we copied the second fire effect from the text layer? That one had its blend mode set to screen, which is why we can still see the layer shapes if you look closely. I'll go in and switch it out to the none blend, just like we did with the text version earlier, so that only the flame remains. Once it's all up and running and composited, the viewer won't be able to identify these individual flame generators, and will instead see a single, rather unpredictable fire. By breaking up the consistency of the burn, you're making it look more real and chaotic, and with fire, chaos is the key to it looking right.
See, here I'm now by myself, talking to myself. That's chaos theory.
I'm going to go into the media panel, find that black plane we made, and add another copy of it right at the bottom of the timeline, so that we have a solid black background rather than this transparent checkerboard. Finally, let's add some sparks using the particle simulator. After adding a particle simulator to the timeline, in the emitters shape group, I'm going to change it to a quad, and then stretch it out to be the width of the text, positioned near the top of the letters. For trajectory, I'm going to opt for the explode option, so that the sparks all burst out of the emitter quad. In the particle system's appearance, I'll switch to a built-in texture called Sparks Streak, switch off the billboarding, and activate Align to Motion. All this means that the sparks will automatically point in the direction that they're travelling. In the movement group, I'll change life to 0.5 seconds, scale to 10%, and speed to 250. In movement variation, I'll set life to 0.5 seconds, scale to 10%, and speed to 50. This ensures the particles don't all do exactly the same thing and make sure they don't stick around for too long. In the general settings, I'm going to change the particles per second to 400. I'll now go and add a force. By default, this provides a handy gravity force without us having to change a thing. I will, however, add a deflector, and then go into its shape properties and make it very wide and deep, and position it so that it's sitting on the bottom edge of the letters, like a floor. The sparks can now hit this and bounce off. It helps to give the overall effect much more physicality. I'll create one more force and change it to be a turbulence force. This can be effective for this kind of chaotic effect, adding a random element to the particle's movement. Onto the particle layer, I'll add an old-fashioned glow effect. I'm not using the Light Sword Ultra Glow this time because I want a bit more fine control over the look. I'll ramp the intensity of the glow all the way up to 5, drop the threshold to 0, and change the radius to 6. This creates a very close hot glow around the sparks. In per channel intensity, I'll increase the red a touch and drop green and blue so that I can get an orange ember-like look. I duplicate that glow effect, and on the second one I'm going to change it to have an intensity of 2 and a radius of 28. This gives it a slightly softer outer glow. Don't forget to set the blend mode of the particle layer to screen so that it blends in nicely with the fire. The last element to add is a new grade layer which sits above everything else. Onto this I'll find and drop the heat distortion effect. You can go in and customize the exact look, but the defaults do look pretty good. This adds an additional element of intensity and heat, and would be particularly effective if you were going to be compositing the text back onto a live action or photographic background. With all these elements working together, you get pretty convincing molten text, which looks like it's disintegrating and dropping great globs of fire onto the floor. The principles I've covered here aren't specific to the word HitFilm, or even to using text. You can use anything you want as your flame source, which opens up all kinds of exciting possibilities. As always, many thanks for watching, I hope this was useful, and I'll see you on the forums.